Okay, so let's go ahead and we are talking to Alexander Miller. Do you go by Alex or
Hello.
Alexander?
I don't care. Whatever
Doesn't
somebody wants to
care.
call me.
Okay, I'll call you
Yeah, I've
Alex
been
just because it's
Alex,
shorter.
Alexander, all different nicknames. I
All
really
of
don't
it.
care. I'm not one of those people who, if you say their name wrong, will get upset. So
Oh,
it's just like
okay.
whatever,
Well, hey, yeah,
whatever you
just
call me.
he's such a chill dude already. Look at that. We already get that impression. Okay, so Alex, you are the lead designer for Genesis Battle of Champions, which is the game we're talking about today. You guys have your
Yeah.
Kickstarter up and everything right now. How does it feel? Just first of all, how does it feel just to be involved in this Kickstarter that is just exploding right now?
It feels great.
Yeah.
Especially I know when you talked to Sid, but like he doesn't have high expectations, but like I was like, I believe in this game. I know it's going to explode. I know it's going to be
We're gonna
great.
we're gonna smash it.
We're gonna smash. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
definitely is a very humble person. He likes to maybe downplay a little bit. But I like
Yeah.
the confidence there. I like it. I like it. Okay. So I was reading your bio on the Kickstarter, just to get a little backstory about you. So it says, obviously 10 plus years, you've been managing local game stores, building communities around collectible card games, and actually competing in major competitions for various card games. So let's go ahead and just start off with those LGSs. What has your involvement been in the local game store scene in the past?
So I I guess I got how far back do I need to go? That's the question.
I
I
was
guess we'll
born
start with
in.
actual involvement.
Yeah.
So when I was a teenager, I had a LGS just literally down the street,
Yeah.
like a 5 minute walk.
Awesome.
Um,
That's super close.
and the Cardfight Vanguard had just released,
Okay.
and they were asked to go to host the regionals.
Okay.
So they reached out for volunteers, and they got like 4 volunteers, and none of the volunteers showed up with
You walk in and you're like, "Where's everybody else?" And they're like, "There's no backup, friend. You're on your own."
me. um, yeah, well, that was like so they were asking the stores to bring volunteers to help run the event. But short answer is from that, I he essentially hired me. He was a really small shop, and then he hopped onto a bigger shop, and then I started all the events for all the card games.
Oh wow.
Um, and then I worked there for about 3 to 5 years. And then I had a falling out with the owner,
Ah,
and I opened my own shop for 3 years. And then after that, I got married, and my wife opened up her own shop for. I think we're going on to the second or third year now with that one too.
awesome.
Yeah,
So you have gone through pretty much every stage of being involved with an LGS. Not only did you work for one, manage one, and then you owned one as well. Still
yeah.
do. That's awesome. How do you think? Like, what are you bringing from that to Genesis? Like, what does that experience give you over other designers that may have not been involved in LGSs at that level?
There's a one clear important factor. Um, Having the personal experience of seeing the customer base buy the game,
Mm-hmm.
as well as being a owner of a store and knowing what you don't like or like the other companies are doing. You've experienced this from all the different card games.
Yeah.
I've done, I'm not going to name any companies, but
Yep.
it's like there's
There are
certain
some
companies who
companies.
there's some companies who do things that's just like, well, that doesn't help me at all. It's just personally helping you.
Yeah.
And then you have the other companies who are like, oh, here's stuff to help you, help you, help you.
Yeah.
So it's one of Assad's goal was to try to balance out every aspect for the Kickstarter so that it helps the LGS, helps the players, etc. Like we want to try to incorporate everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Trying to balance all that is a heavy task too. Coming from somebody who also has managed events for an LGS and is actually as of like 10 minutes ago, I've been working on negotiating a lease with a new unit for our own store. So I understand.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I definitely understand your extra perspective added from being on both ends of that equation. So yeah, so you have seen everything from start to finish, and that's definitely, I can see how that's helped you out. So we've got you've also got your major TCG competitions included in there. What Let's do your history of games. Where you so you said you
Oh,
started in
oh,
Cardfight Vanguard?
no, I did not
No,
start. So I
that was
actually
not the
started playing
start.
it when I was 6. When I was 6, I went. My brother was having swimming lessons,
Okay.
and we had to wait for him to finish the swimming lessons. And there was 2 people playing Magic the Gathering there,
Okay.
and one of them played this giant crab, and I went, "Oh my gosh, Dad, you can play with giant crabs. I need to play this game."
Crabs is what got you in. There's a crab in this game? Heck yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now it just reminds me, I need to design a giant crab in
Yeah,
Genesis.
absolutely. That you gotta get another little Alex into this game with a crab.
So yeah, so from there I went. Even though I told you about my local game store was 5 minutes away, they didn't host any events, so
Oh,
we would travel to ones that did.
okay.
So literally at the age of 6, I was playing Magic the Gathering, and then Pokemon released,
Yep.
and Digimon released.
Oh, yeah.
But Digimon, there's no gameplay scene. So I started playing Pokemon.
Yep.
Then while playing Pokemon, HeroClix came out, so I started playing
Oh,
HeroClix.
okay.
I played all these games at the same time.
Yeah. You were just a jack of all trades juggling all these games.
Yeah. And then I played a few of the other games that have died and gone away. But
Yeah. There have been many. Rest in peace.
now I'll say like the top end tournament scene. That's more of an exaggeration because I never go there to try to win.
Yeah.
But I do have a weird curse. Whenever I go
Oh.
to a big Magic event, they they cover me in some sort of way. So the first time I ever went, first game, they're like, "We're gonna put you on the screen on the recording," and I went to that game playing Modern, and I actually never played Modern. I always play Standard and Draft. That was my focus. I only went with my friends. I'm like, "Hey, give me a deck. What do you got?" They're like, here's Storm."
Oh, you're playing a
Hadn't
loner deck too.
touched the deck. Hadn't touched the deck. Had no clue what I was doing.
Here you go.
Everybody watching online is just like, "What the heck is this guy doing?"
What is he doing? Why would he play that? What's with this combo? What's the point of this deck?
Now luckily, luckily Storm, if you have the right starting hand, you just win.
You
So
just
you
win,
don't
yeah, you
need
just
to
go,
play
yeah.
much. But it was like the second and third game where I didn't have the win and I had to actually play out the game. It was just like, well, I was playing instants at sorcery speed, and then later on he was like, "Yeah, that's an instant." I'm like, "Oh,
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. What is this,
yeah,
your
I
first
didn't realize
game? And you're like, with this
gifting was
deck, yeah.
instant."
Oh, wow,
Oh,
okay. So you
and
definitely
then
jumped in just immediately.
yeah, and then when so recently, or whatever recent is probably like 5 to 8 years ago, they stopped doing the coverage, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I still went to event once again, casual. I brought a casual standard deck, completely joke deck, not good.
Yeah.
And they made a single like online post about a match, and all it read was this: I just saw a player who's 18 life to. It was like a Dark Confidant, but it was a
Yeah.
standard Dark Confidant. 18 life to his own creature, then to kill it. Now that's value.
So every time you go to an event, they're just like, look at this guy. What's he doing? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's not even like they know my name. It's just like It's just randomly.
just random. They just throw you on. You're just roll the
Oh,
dice. They're just like, what table? Oh, that table? Yeah. Oh, it's that guy again. What the heck?
oh,
Alrighty. That's pretty funny. Okay, so you've never been like a Pro Tour grinder or a what is it a Magic Fest now. They don't call them GPs anymore.
yeah.
But so you've never been a hardcore grinder, but you've been a strong casual player, a high level
Yeah. Well,
casual.
usually I'm hosting events. I don't
Yeah,
have time.
you don't get
other
time to
stuff.
play. Yeah.
No.
Especially when you were owning an LGS and managing all of those events, you don't get a lot of time to play.
No.
Okay, so you've got a pretty interesting background throughout these other games. And you talked about HeroClix. I feel like maybe
Yes.
did that bring any influence to the Genesis having that chessboard kind of feel to it?
I will definitely say yes.
Okay.
Um, I think a lot of Magic players right now, we love Magic, but it's at a place, and that's all I can
Yep.
say. It's at a place,
Yeah. That's
and
what
I
we
was
can
at a place.
respectively say. It's at a place.
It's at a place, and then I played Genesis, and I'm like, this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
what
this
like
is it.
pulled you in immediately.
it didn't pull me away from Magic. I still play
Yeah.
Magic, still play Commander, still play
Yeah,
all
it's still
the
fun.
format.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is my game,
Yep.
and that's the weird thing about Genesis. It's not like other games, other TCGs.
Yeah.
Because of the board.
Yeah.
And I think there's a player base specifically that needs this. That's been missing this aspect of TCG.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, because it is definitely it adds a lot of different things to think about rather than just like, oh, the effects on the card, this character has this much health, or this has this attack. It's like, oh, okay. Well, if I put it here, it doesn't matter. Like, that's just gonna die. So there's no point to play this card, even though it's a really strong card. But if it's just gonna end up dead, yeah. So that definitely it changes a lot. But also, I think it really makes me think, what happens when you're designing a card? Because that adds, not only does it add another layer for us, the player, but it adds another layer for you. That is, from my perspective, extremely hard to think about because there's so many more variables just by adding this grid, just by adding this field. It becomes like you've got this brick of like, oh yeah, core design concept that every TCG has to come across: abilities, attack, health, defense, all that kind of stuff. And then you're like, oh, but what if we just added all of this other stuff in? It can be played here, it can teleport there, this other card could combine with this within the movement and the way it attacks and the attack range of things. It just seems like you were like, all these other games don't have enough to think about. I need to challenge myself as a designer. Let's go overboard here and just crush ourselves. How does that affect essentially your design approach?
So I don't know what design approach, but I had a thought like not too long ago where most games, when you think about what you're doing, you have to think about your opponent's hand and what you're playing. Pretty much that's it. And that Genesis has that third step. It's like your opponent's hand, what you're playing, where you're playing, and then where it's going to go. Sorry, I said 3, but that's actually 4.
Yeah, you were like, it's this complicated. Actually, it's a little more. Further proving our point here that there's a lot to think about.
Yeah. As far as complexity to design, I wish I could say it's more complex, but we're still so young.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the stages that such the beginning early concepts we're able to test and try out, and it's not
okay.
We don't have to push ourselves to the extreme
yet.
Yeah. That being said, I guess I should talk about how I got my position.
Yeah.
Because I was not
the original designer.
Recently.
Yeah.
I was not originally the lead. I only popped on for starting at J2 going forward.
Okay.
When Raze came out, I left a hefty document to Sid saying this set is garbage.
That's how you get a job.
Well, I should say my starting interaction with Sid, other than playing the game at a convention, when I had him first come to my store, was my statement at the end of the day was, "Hey, your starter deck is garbage. Let me help you design a new one."
Well, we can make this better. Let's go.
but he agreed. He knew 100%. But like, it's funny now that starter deck, some people who didn't have to start playing with it, and buy it now are like, "This is great. Why don't you make more of this?" Because it's more of a fat pack than a starter deck.
Okay.
And that's the issue. I'm like, when I was first starting, I was telling people, do not buy the starter deck. Just buy half a box. It's the same price.
It's the same
You'll
thing.
Get rare. You'll get way more rare.
You get more stuff.
Yeah. But now when deck builders go back and they look at it, they're like, "Oh, that thing was so great. Are you guys gonna do more of that?" And we're like, "We'll think about it." But as long as it's not designed as a starter deck, I'd be more supportive of it. But sorry, back to the topic.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, we can go off on any topic we want.
I told them the set was absolute trash because we have a future league. So future league is allowed to inspect the cards, tell them if you're worried the card's going to break the game, stuff like that. So I did the absolute opposite. I said, I don't remember how many rares are in Raze, but I said there's 4 playable rares in this whole set.
Yep. Just there's 4.
There's 4. 4 whole playable rares in the set, and then maybe 3 uncommons, a couple filler cards that you'll play just because of theme.
Yeah, you need to fill the deck or.
And I'll throw Sid under the bus. Sid respectfully supported his design team, because I'll also say this was the first set Sid actually stepped away from design and gave
Yep.
it fully to the design team. And he said, "No, I trust my design team. They've done this. They've tested it." Da, 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 da. Then I'm going to say, luckily, which is a very weird luckily, COVID hit. This is weirdly that COVID hit, and it delayed Rays. And so Sid got the time to sit down and play the actual card from
Yep.
Rays, and he went, "Oh,
Oh, you know
you're right."
what? You might be on to something.
Yeah. Um, Now, those designers, I still love them. Part of their issue is not necessarily them. We have a formula
Yep.
to build cards.
Okay.
So the formula, let's beta was up here.
Yeah.
Was like power level is up here at beta, which normally is. It's usually uncontrolled wild.
Yeah.
Best is. And then they did Welcome to Jellar, and they brought the power down a little bit lower. And then Rays came out, and the power was a little bit lower. And that was more of the formula's issue. So now I was like, you can't start here and then balance
And just
power
keep
level
going down
here.
and down and down. Yeah.
You can't go down. You have to match it. You can be slightly under
Yep.
because you know that these are a little bit broken. So you're gonna have a few broken cards from your beta. That's where you need to be.
You can do this little wave,
Yeah.
but you don't want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want a tight sine wave, not a loose one.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's where we are with Origins. Origins is going to bring, like, despite there being 3 past sets, will be the biggest wave possible because 80% of that set is at that power level.
Okay.
Is right here.
Okay.
And just I think we spoiled this recently, but I don't know if it's been said a lot. There are a bunch of cards that were going to be rare that we just put them in uncommon.
Okay. Bump
we
them
just
down.
was like, we just bumped them down. At the end of the day, we're like, we want there to be powerful draft and sealed, and make it enjoyable. It's also tricky because there's an extra color, so it cuts the colors that you can do for draft and sealed a lot more.
Yeah.
So specifically in Jaylara, there's no rares. The colorless affiliation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
What was the original question?
I don't. Well, where were I've been bouncing around. I have a set of questions, but like I've just been following the flow of the conversation. So yeah. I mean, I think that makes for the best watchability for the viewer there. Yeah, you'd actually did mention something I wanted to talk about as well. Future League.
Yes.
I find that very, very interesting, and I talked to Assad about it. About how the benefits, the downsides, like how it came about, what it really is for the game, because it's very unique for a trading card game to have. I mean, it's not quite an open testing league. It's not like just anybody gets cards. You don't just send them out. You have to sign up for it. You have to do a little work to get in. But it is for all intents and purposes a public testing system.
Yes.
How has that been from your design standpoint? I see your videos on the Kickstarter where you are reviewing cards that people submit, and those are hilarious. I was watching one where I think you got a card that someone has resubmitted multiple times, and you were like, this card is still garbage. Why do you keep doing this? And then you just move on. You're just like, you've done nothing but make it worse. So I genuinely love the just real review of the card. Just like, this is trash. Why do you keep, why? And I found that hilarious. So yeah, I think how does Future League work out with you guys? How are you receiving that feedback, and what is your kind of review process for the feedback that you get, and how does it end up on the new versions of cards?
Yeah. So I'll start with, I think the goal of Future League is similar to Warhammer's Warhammer system. I think it's where it sort of comes from. Warhammer has a system where they openly players can get new information, like the new stats or adjustments, and then players can just play with that, and then they get that, they take that
like
data back, and that's how they do it. Yeah. So I think it's our Future League started off sort of the basis of that. From there, Future League, we essentially just sent out a whole bunch of cards to the Future League. That way, so if we were just to straight up just like drop a full set, right, it just spoils the whole set, and that's no fun. So we like to mix in a whole bunch.
Oh well, I guess that's okay. Cool.
we like to mix in some like concept cards, like would this work in Genesis type of cards?
Yeah.
Things like that. there is then two sort of processes. There's just the initial thoughts, and this is usually the most chaotic. Either that usually irritates me or not at all. Uh, it's just like everybody who's a Future League member just starts talking. You'll have one side is like, this is the most broken card in the world, and you'll have the other side be like, no, that's garbage. What the
The
heck are you guys
card's
on
trash.
about? Uh, uh, and either it's great information or it's absolutely useless. You have to sift through it to figure out what
Yep.
the information is. Then there's the second piece, which is we have a form where you fill when you actually played the card.
Okay.
We do take that data a little bit more. We take that data a little bit more seriously because you at least tested the card.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of people who join Future League and just do the talking part, and it's helpful because
Yeah.
you do need gut reactions because people
Yep.
will open these cards and be like, "Oh my gosh, this card's broken." You still
Yep.
need to see that.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah, you still want to know
Uh,
what happens when somebody just opens the pack.
But the worst is when you have in that first aspect somebody who declares this card is absolutely broken and we shouldn't push forward with it, but doesn't bother to test it.
Yeah.
That's the negative spot of Future League, and like this person will keep that negative attitude. We're like, and we just like we will constantly respond with, "Have you tested it?"
Yeah.
That'll be our response, and they'll be like,
Did,
"No."
did it work in
Like, well,
testing? And you're like, no,
yeah,
I haven't used it yet. I'm like, why aren't you using it if it's broken?
exactly. And then so we take the data from both. When we have design meetings, I usually bring up a card to the designer who designed the card of what
Mhm.
it's talking about in Future League. And then when we go through the data of the playtest stuff, we go more thorough on that. We're
Yeah.
like, oh, this card played well. This card feels too strong. This card feels broken. We'll go more in depth looking at that data along with the card.
Yep.
Um, the other issue that Future League has, which is more of a weird emotional response, and it's more of a current one, is like we give them a card and they're not happy with the color pairings. It's like,
Okay.
it, especially when new people come in, they won't understand that a Future League card, whatever it is not its final form.
Yeah.
So like it could be like, here's an apple. It doesn't mean anything. It's just an
Yeah.
apple, and they'll be like, I don't think an apple should be in this color. And we're like, well, it's not going to be an apple.
Well, it's going to change from an apple, probably. I don't think you're going to play an apple in Genesis.
Yeah.
We don't reveal everything
Oh.
about the card, guys. Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
less
yeah.
everybody gets hooked on the theme sometimes, and it's like, no, guys, it's gonna be different.
Yeah.
We're not just spoiling the set, especially because from what I have kind of gleaned from your info about Future League is you're not just testing the very next set, you're testing farther into the future sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're kind of, I mean, because you have to do that with card games. You have to test multiple sets into the future. I was talking to Assad about it and about kind of how you guys have multiple sets listed on the Kickstarter, and they're all in
Mhm.
various design stages. From the late, the ones farthest downstream being just like a nebulous. We have the plot line worked out for this kind of, and it'll probably be this on, But obviously, if people start hating something over here, we're gonna change that there. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about is when they see cards in games, they don't realize that sometimes that card was designed a year plus
Yeah.
ago, theoretically, and
Yeah.
you realize it's broken when it comes out, and everybody's like, oh, it's broken, and they're like, they have to fix this, like the next set better fix this card, and you're like, I hate to break it to you, but that next set is probably already being printed by the time you're getting this card, or it's about to go to print.
Well, we have a card that has been from the community, from myself, has been stated to be the most broken card, but it has never been able to take a championship or a tournament win.
Okay, so it's one of those ghosts in the background, like ready just the second there's a combo with it for something else.
We know it's going to at some point.
At some point, it will be broken. That's funny.
Well, do you know Yu-Gi-Oh at all?
Huh?
Do you know Yu-Gi-Oh at all? Do you know Yu-Gi-Oh at
Very
all?
vaguely. I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh
You know the
since
card
very
Pot of
early
Greed?
on. Yes.
You know
Oh
Pot of
yeah,
Greed?
yeah. Pot of Greed.
Sure.
Pot of Greed. Broken.
We have Super Pot of Greed in Genesis. It draws 3 cards. I don't know how they thought that was fine, but like it is balanced because if you haven't played Genesis, for the people playing, there's actually multiple bounces, both the cost to have the card in your deck
Yep.
as well as the payment cost. So it's not like Pot of Greed was just free. You just drew cards,
Yeah.
drew more Pot of Greed, something like that. You still have to pay cost for them.
Yeah,
but it's just drawing 3 cards is insane
it's
in
a
any game.
lot. Yeah, drawing 3 cards is, in almost every game, quite a bit of draw. There are some
Now
games where
it's
the
the
whole
most
point is to draw
expensive.
your whole deck, but
Yeah, yeah. It's the most expensive cheat, which is the thing that definitely has held it back,
yep.
luckily. But we know at some point it's going to be broken. It's got to be at some point.
Yeah. At some point there will be a card that you accidentally print in a set that you didn't think about it with that card, and it will be like, "Oh, we broke it. We did it. Pot of Greed is now full on Pot of Greed. We did it."
Future League. Let's go back to Future League. Anytime a card is posted into Future League, a Future League will go, "This is broken with."
With
I can't
X
just say that. I
card.
don't know why I'm hiding the name. It's a legal card. It's broken with Epiphany. Every time a Future League card comes out, it's broken with Epiphany. That's a statement that one Future Leaguer will state.
Yep. Yep.
It's like, and then we go, okay, well, if you didn't play Epiphany, is this card broken? They go, no.
Like, okay, well then
And
then
then
I
it's repeated again. They test it and they're like,
yeah.
it didn't end up doing anything.
Yeah. If I had like the perfect hand, it'd be broken, and you're
Yeah,
like, yeah,
a
but how
lot of
often do you have the
times, a lot of
perfect
times.
hand? Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much a lot
yeah.
of cards, especially the ones at higher rarities. If you have the perfect hand, they're really powerful. Shocker, that's why they're at high rarity. The more powerful cards, they just get broken eventually if you just have the perfect hand of cards. So yeah. That's very funny. It'd be very interesting just to see something in the Future League where it's just a countdown until when Epiphany breaks. Days
Oh.
since Epiphany has been broken. It just keeps the counter going, and then one day it just resets to 0. Stop the clock. All right. So you were saying you guys have kind of a formula of how you design cards. Is there a like a multi-pronged approach? Like sometimes you have an idea for just an effect and a card gets designed around that, or do you start more with the like background theming and design cards to fit the theme and the plot of the set? What's your generally your first approach? Obviously not every card's the same, but how
I'll
does it
go
start?
my approach. I usually go ability and then attach the theme to it.
Yep. Okay.
Um, like this is a Future League argument is I can attach any theme to anything.
Okay.
Um, so it's let's just do something as simple as draw a card, and
Yep.
we look at the subtypes of affiliations or colors.
Yeah.
Bellum is devotion. So if
Yep.
you devote yourself, you can draw a card.
Yep.
Red is passion. Passionately, you're going to draw a
You're gonna
card.
draw.
It, Axon is knowledge. That's definitely
That's
within draw a
definitely
card.
draw a card.
Phage is survivability. Hey, that's in draw a card.
Yep. Getting
Chaos is
resources.
power at any cost. Draw a card. But they'll complain and be like, nah, I see draw a card as an axon sort of thing, as a knowledge basic. And I'm like, that's great. You can spin that flavor in any way.
Yep. Yeah. There's lots of different ways to spin flavor.
Now, but I'll have set flavor.
Okay.
And that can adjust the card. But I still find even then I usually go concept first
Okay.
to flavor.
Okay. Concept of flavor. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that generally is. I think that agrees with my concept of how a TCG you want it to feel. You want to have flavor, definitely. You want to have the flavor make sense. Otherwise, you're just playing words. And
Yeah.
I definitely think Genesis has a lot more plot and background than a lot of card games do. So I think your theming is definitely up there, but also the strategic quality of the cards is also there.
Yeah.
So speaking of the chi cost of cards and the cost of abilities, how do you manage bouncing around from all of that? Because not only so I mean you have your cost to play the card, you have your cost of abilities on the card theoretically if it's a form of permanent instead of just a spell. You have your chi cost, which is to put it into your deck, because Genesis, for those of you that don't know, has no limit on how many of a copies of a card you can put in. So
Yes.
if you want to run a deck that is all one card, theoretically you can. You can just have your one champion and then just one card, just a ton of copies of it. You are only limited by your overall chi. So similar to games where you have like a point buy system for like an army. You have kind of that for Genesis. How does that how are you balancing that? Because that seems like a lot. It's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of because you can adjust by 1 point. just like, oh,
Yes.
5G to 6G. You're not doing, 5, 10, 15, 20. You've got some cards where like the attack costs 13 aura, and it's
Yeah.
like, why 13? Why not 12? Why not 15? Why not these specific numbers? How does it get down to that nitty-gritty? Is that all done in like a future league and playtesting, and you're like, what about 14? What about 13? What about like, are you trying these singular unit changes?
So I unfortunately, boring answer. The formula does all that calculations
Okay.
for us.
I love it. I love it. I love the boring
But
answer. It's great.
there are lots of effects that cannot be formulated. So
Yeah.
we in testing still have to do those manual adjustments and slight tweaks here and there
Okay.
and plan stuff.
So the
Yeah.
formula creates this baseline card, and then you play
Yeah.
test, and then you go, okay, that's not enough. That needs to be more expensive. Bump, bump, bump. Click, click, click. Move it up. And then you start from this base formula. Okay, that's
Yeah.
that. I love it. I love that you guys just have just this as a whole, as a company. I think especially through this interview with Assad, watching some of your guys' other videos, you've got a lot more transparency than a lot
Mhm.
of companies. Just the fact that you're just willing to talk about with just openly with Future League, with these interviews about how you're creating these cards, how this gets done, how
Yeah.
the sausage is made. It's really interesting just to see that from a company. It's kind of refreshing because a lot of other companies that we know about are in a place where they don't like communicating anything about what they do in the background unless it's in a very controlled environment, unless it's like, we've crafted this blog post about this topic and it's been reviewed by everyone from this team and that team and that team and through all this red tape. Whereas I just messaged Assad, I got in contact with Bronson, and he was like, hey, just set up an interview, we can talk about whatever. And then he was like, oh, you should talk to Alex too, you guys can just talk about whatever, with no filtering of, like, oh, we can't talk about that, you're not allowed to ask about that. It's just like, oh yeah, let's talk, let's chat.
Yeah.
Is
No, we don't restrict anything.
Yeah,
It's same with our artists. We actually tell our artists, if you make art, you're allowed to post it. Just let us know.
yeah.
Um, the only thing, so we don't care if the art goes out, because it's cool to see the art. You don't see the full card design yet,
Yeah,
but you get to see
the
cool
I mean,
art.
the art is very interesting. I think some of the art is some of the stuff that gets a lot of people into games. My wife first got into Magic solely because of the art. I didn't
Yeah.
She didn't really want to play. She just wanted to look at the art on cards. So I definitely think art has a lot of power in card games. So dropping the art, I mean, is a pretty cool thing. And I like that it's up to the artist. Just post it whenever you want. Just, let us know so that when someone talks about it and they go, this is new Genesis art, we know that that's coming our way.
Yeah.
Speaking of the art, how far out do you guys kind of commission your art? How long is that process for you?
Oh, I wish it was shorter. Or wait. Do I wish it was longer or wish it was shorter? I don't know which one's the right one. But art is rough. I'd say that's our roughest spot. I find that most of the time, so far when dealing with it, it is the biggest delay for us.
Okay.
Waiting for artists. But it's because we have a very small team,
Okay.
and we try to get them to do as many pieces as possible. Whereas I don't know, like when it comes to a Magic set, I assume like you maybe have an artist doing 2 pieces maybe at the most in the
Yeah.
set, something
Yep.
like that.
Yeah,
It's
two,
like
maybe if they're really
where
popular they get 3 or 4, but it's never
yeah,
that
yeah,
many.
where we're like each of our artists gets like 15% to
Whew.
20.
Yeah,
It's
wow.
huge amount.
Yeah.
But that also more has to do with our growth. Like we're
Yeah.
just continuing to slowly grow artists. And with our Origins, you'll actually see there's a lot of new artists,
Okay.
and some of them we progress forward with, and some of them we didn't.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
mean,
it
it
that's
doesn't
just
always work
how it
out. I think that also contributes to your guys's very tight design on the art. Your cards are very uniform while also still having their own, obviously the artist's own flavor and the artist's own twists. But I
yeah.
feel like when you flip through a stack of Genesis cards, they all look relatively like they were done
Mhm.
in the same theme, in the same art style,
Yeah.
which I think is definitely a positive. Especially with Magic cards nowadays, you're just flipping through them and you're like, they're all completely different, and it's kind of off-putting sometimes.
This
Obviously,
is where I go. You should do an interview with Demyan.
Yeah. Hey, let's connect. Let's do that. Let's talk about art. I love art. I love like fantasy art in board games and card games in just in general. You know, your RPGs, all the tabletop stuff. You get some
Yeah.
really amazing artists that can do a lot of really crazy stuff. So, I definitely think if you're an art fan out there, Genesis definitely has a lot of eye candy for you. So, um, check it out. Yeah. So is I made this one a little shorter than Assad's because we went like for over an hour with Assad. So I want to try to tone it down. I think we're at a tight 35 minutes right now, which is I think a little bit better of a length for the viewers. Is there
Yeah. Yeah.
anything you wanted to talk about
I do.
with
So
the game? Yeah.
when are you pitching your pitch contest card?
Oh my God. Oh man. Ooh.
I didn't do it.
My
Just
design abilities.
Spitball a card to me right now. We'll do a live pitch contest. I can tell you shit in person.
I'm
Fine.
only 2 games in. Don't make me. Yeah, no, I would. You know what? I'm gonna have to work on that. I'm gonna have to get a
All
card
right,
in
all right.
there. And you know what? I'll get it in, and then I'll clip my card being shown in your video, and then we can do another quick interview. Why is this card shit? Why is this card belong in a dumpster? Yeah, because I think
Oh.
definitely my interest in Genesis, it comes from the strategic level of the game. It's so
Mhm.
so very different. Like you said, there's just so much more to think about, which I think is definitely a pro for you guys. So if you are out there and you're looking for a game that has a little bit more strategic depth without just being because of a massive card pool or because of super complicated cards with 90 paragraphs of text on them, definitely check out Genesis. Like we talked with Assad, the product is available and on the market. So instead of having to
Yes.
go and just randomly back it on Kickstarter, you can just grab a starter kit or a booster box. I will link my store, Fab Arsenal, below. We actually have some Genesis Jalaris Second Edition available on the store right
Nice.
now.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you for coming on the channel. Thanks for talking, having a quick chat about your design, your experience, your history, all of that. We went back to 6-year-old Alex just hanging
Yeah.
out. I'm gonna
Thanks
have
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just gonna plug that Kickstarter again. The Kickstarter is live. So
I'll
guys,
also
definitely
link
check out their
that below.
Kickstarter. Definitely check out the store. Definitely check out Genesis. Like Alex said, they are young. Now is the time to get in on the ground floor. This Kickstarter is steamrolling along. You've got a lot of backers, you got a lot of money behind it. But the company is already proven. Instead of a lot of other TCGs that are on Kickstarter right now, where it's their first set, they're not done with the art, the game isn't finished. You're taking a huge risk with Genesis. You click that back button, and it's already all done. They're done. They've got the set design. They're ready to click print. They're just waiting on how many boxes to print. So, it's a done deal. It's solid. The game and the production. So, check them out. Thank you so much for coming on, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
And I think we're done. I think we did it.
All right.
We done did it.